Hello again. Welcome to the second style of the series. This time I'll be covering a technique where I'll be taking hair strands from Xgen, converting them into hair cards, and of course we'll be optimizing them to a lower amount of polygons so that we can take it into a game engine. So as you can see, I've already got my setup ready. I've got a scalp ready and I've got the Xgen description ready, and you can see me placing guide curves on the scalp. So right now what I'm targeting to do is to create a very simple hairstyle. It's not extremely simple, but it's decent enough to be used for representation. So the idea here is that I'm gonna create a hairstyle in Xgen. Then I'll be increasing the width of every child hair, or you can say every child strands that's following the guide curve, and decrease the density of the hair strands. Then converting those hair strands into polygons and apply a texture onto them. The technique that I'm showing right now might not be super intuitive for all kind of hairstyles, but that said, it's good if you are creating a hairstyle that is fairly straight. Say for example the hairstyle that you see in the game Final Fantasy 15 or any Square Enix game for that sort. They kinda use the same technique, not the same technique, but the methods are pretty much similar enough. I'm gonna attach a link in the description for the tech demo of the hairs for Final Fantasy 15 game, and you should be able to figure out that the technique that I'm showing you right now is pretty much similar to what they use. Also, there are a few drawbacks for using this kind of method to create hair cards. The first one is that you might have to go back and manually adjust some of the hair cards, not all, but some of the hair cards, especially along the area of the ears, to align them with the scalp, because the Xgen hair cards, the direction that Xgen hair cards have, they are pretty much random, right? And in order to make them aligned to the scalp, you have to manually place it. Or you can use one of the two techniques, one of which I'm going to show in this video itself. So the first one is taking the hair cards into Blender, converting them into curves, then using Hair Tool, the plugin that I showed in the first video of not the first video, but like the second or third video of the series, to align the curve tilt to the scalp. Or otherwise, you can convert all these hairs into interactive grooming and then use Maya's internal tool to align those hair strands into a scalp. The second drawback is that this method is not very suitable for super complex hairstyle. When I say super complex, I usually means any hairstyle that is extremely curly. Now, if you are trying to create haircuts for curly hairs and you are not worried about the poly count, you are just making it for a portfolio piece or presentation, go for it. There is no problem doing that. But creating curly hairs using this method is kind of pretty unintuitive, because you're gonna get a lot of poly count for each hair card, and it's always a better idea to do that in the texture itself, right? So basically creating a curly texture, a curly hair card texture, and then placing them on straighter cards. That way you're gonna save some polygons and still your hair gonna look like a regular curly hairstyle. You can of course create that curly hairstyle using polygons and with straight hair texture, but if you are trying to do that, I'll highly recommend you to do it with the method of manually placing and shaping hair cards. The reason being, if you completely depend on the software, you're gonna have curly hair with a uniform density, which is gonna increase a lot of poly count. But if you do that with a planned method, which is manually placing and shaping hair cards, then you're gonna have a lot more control over the curliness of the hair and the density of the hair. You know, the placement where you want to have a lot more density for the curly hairs. That way you're gonna save a lot on the poly count side, because this time you're not allowing the software to decide the poly count for you, but you yourself are planning and shaping curves in order to have the efficient amount of polygons that is suitable for the hairstyle that you are approaching for. Right, so we're halfway there, and as you can see, I'm not individually placing all the hair strands. I'm basically doing one side and then mirroring it to the other. So yeah, in just a few minutes, we will be going over to modifier stack in Maya Xgen to make the hairstyle come to life a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm back into adjusting the last few strands of the hair, and you can see me adding some density to the hair strands. So I had some modifier already attached. I deleted all of them and I decided to begin again. The first modifier that I'll be adding is the clump modifier. With that, I won't be generating the clump, but I'll ask Xgen to generate the clumping with per hair strands, or you can say per guide hairs that I have placed. Again, a little bit of micro adjustments here and there. You can see me going to the hair around the neck area and readjusting them to my desired amount. So here I'm trying to create a density mask. So what basically I'm trying to do is I'm trying to go for a kind of M taper at the beginning of the hair scalp on the front side of the forehead. I mean, of course, it's always the front side of the forehead. But yeah, I'm trying to get that M taper. I'm pretty sure that I'll be ending up readjusting the scalp itself rather than creating that taper by using density masks. Alright, so yeah, there you can see I'm soft selecting the scalp, and I'm selecting the first vertex at the beginning of the scalp and pulling it a little bit down in order to get that sharp tapering. Okay, a little bit of a time skip. So as you can see, what I basically did was increase the width of each strand from the width slider and decrease the density. And then I have selected the whole description. Then I converted it into hair cards. Converting Xgen hair strands to cards will always leave you with perfectly stacked UVs. Right now you can see I have 4 UV islands, so I'm just trying to stack them up to make it just one UV island. Also, it's always an option to customize the amount of UV island that you want to have depending on the variations that you have in your texture. Alright, so now I'm exporting these hair strand sets to take them into Blender and use hair tool to align them to the scalp. Alright, so I'm back at Blender and I am importing my hair cards and also my base mesh head. At first I'll be readjusting the size, then I'll be going into shading and I'll be creating a new material for the hairs. So for this one I have a different set of hair textures, different from the hair texture that we have been using in the previous videos. The main difference is it have got taper inbuilt in the texture and it has got a lot more negative space, or you can say lot more non-opaque space in the texture itself. Again, you can see me go back to UVs, then rotating the UVs in order to have the proper alignment of the hair cards to the hair texture. Right, putting a black material on the head, and right off the bat you can see there are some see-through space from the hair cards and you can directly see the head from there. So yeah, that was an error and we'll be fixing it soon. Okay, right now I'm just selecting hair cards at random and placing them in different set of textures in order to have some great variations. But yeah, in just a moment I will be changing that and fixing the gaps. Since I was not really satisfied with the negative spacing, I decided to convert my hair cards into curves. So the way to do it is basically you select all the edges, all the edge rings through the UVs, right? And then collapse those edge rings in order to get these straight edges, and then you can go in and convert them into curves, right? And then you can create a profile, a Blender default profile for the curve, then use your hair tools in order to readjust the curve tilt and align it to the head. So there you can see me creating a profile, right? Give it a uniform thickness. Select the curves, go to hair tool, and on the target select the head and hit align curve tilt. So the alignment is perpendicular, so I just hit Ctrl D and aligned it to 90 degree again, and now I have perfect alignation to the head. Again, I'm just selecting a few curves at the top, and I'll be just manually readjusting the curve tilt. Just soft select it, at the tips, or you can like completely select the whole curve. So I'm doing the soft selection method. Hit to connect it only. Then you can just hit the curve tilt and realign it to your desirable amount. Right, so again, doing some manual final touches, adjusting some haircuts manually that I might suspect could cause an issue proceeding forward. Make sure that you always have your alignment smoothed out in order to have the best results and to have the hair clipping as smooth as possible. Yeah, so finally I have converted those hair curves into hair cards, and as you can see I already have one UV island which is like perfectly stacked, right? And again I'll be selecting hair cards at random and placing them on top of different sets of hair texture in order to have some great variations. Alright, so right now I'm in Photoshop and I'm trying to create a new hair texture by sampling in the vertex color texture. And for this one I'll be creating a gradient texture that will be black to white from root to tip, and I'll be using it as the new diffuse map. Alright, so as you can see, the head that we could see through the hairs have completely vanished now, or you can say it blended perfectly because we used the new gradient texture. This step wouldn't have been necessary if we would have created a scalp from the beginning, but since we didn't do it, it's completely fine to use this method. Okay, flyaways time. So creating flyaways using this technique is pretty much easy. So what basically you have to do is you need to select a few hair cards from the outer side of the whole hair card set, and then place them on the flyaway texture right in the UVs. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. In my case, my flyaway hairs are just underneath the main hair textures, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select a few hairs at random, and I'll be making sure that the hairs that I'm selecting is at the outer side of the hair cards, right? And then I'll be dragging them UVs down to the flyaway sides, and then rescaling them in order to best match the kind of style that I'm going for. So I have separated the flyaway hair cards, and now I'm using a shrink wrap modifier on just the two vertex that is at the roots. And then what I'm doing is I'm just offsetting the flyaway hairs from the main hair set in order to get that little bit extra feel of flyaway, the little bit what do you call it, the little bit striations from the main hair clump, right? Again, I'm adjusting the flyaway hair cards at random and putting them onto respective texture sets, not texture sets, but different sets of hair clumps on the texture to get that good amount of variation. Alright, so we are almost at the end of the video and I'm just doing some final adjustments. It's not really adjustment, I'm just playing with it and I'm trying to figure out what else I can make with the haircuts that I have. I'm just trying to change the length of the clumping and stuff by pulling out the last edge of each haircut. But yeah, that's about the technique, right? That's how you create haircuts from using Xgen. So yeah, I'll be signing out from this video and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Peace out.